What did we say last session? At this point, we knew what can help us determine our options: identifying attacks, recognizing opponent's threats, finding out what's going on in the position by evaluating it. And what did we do? We walked through evaluating a position that we are unfamiliar with. And in doing that, we came up with two possible options for white. If you noticed, we evaluated the position by comparing and weighting each element for both sides to determine which side has the better of that element, if that's the case, or if the element is equally balanced, in which case the element may not play a significant role in the position. We want to know what elements we have in our favor and what elements our opponent has in its favor. We then play taking advantage of our favorable elements, while at the same time we counter or neutralize our opponents. So in this position, what is more important? Black's passed pawn, one square away from promoting, or black's king vulnerability, or white's king vulnerability? Which element is playing a more significant role? Typically, elements playing a significant role in tipping the balance are more important than others. So, in this position, those three elements are important. White should play to take advantage of black's king vulnerability, whereas black should play to take advantage of white's king vulnerability and its passed pawn, in this order. If I had told you this position is a puzzle where white is to move and win, then you would have not gone through the evaluating part. White's potential checking moves would have come to mind instead, almost immediately, and you would have bypassed or not looked at other elements relevant in the position. Solving puzzles helps us learn tactical patterns or sequences. However, solving tactical puzzles or only tactical puzzles creates a bad habit to some extent, where we only focus on finding the sequence of moves and ignoring everything else. That is not a real game situation for the most part. In a real game situation, nobody is next to us to whisper, "Why to move and win?" We must have a way of recognizing such situations on our own when they appear on the board. And familiarity with tactical or mate patterns help us, but that isn't the only one thing we want to know or be familiar with. An instance of that is the game Wei Yi against Wesley So, where after Grandmaster Yi took the free knight on a3, Wesley So found the mate sequence on its own. We discussed that game in our Defending Against Mate lab. Also, whenever there is no checks or tactics in the position, we don't know what to do or how to approach the position. We want to eliminate those "I don't know what to do" moments, and one way of doing it is by evaluating the position, taking our time, and engage our System 2 thinking to do so. It is necessary that we create the habit of evaluating the position before considering possible moves, even if solving tactical puzzles, to see where the advantage or superiority, if any, is in the position, or to find the elements that give such advantage in the position. That is the importance of evaluating the position. Let's have a look at the example position from the session and calculate the two options we came up with to see how it ends. In this position, we found that white has two possible options: knight g6 check or rook e8 check. Let's have a look at knight g6 check first. Black has to get out of check, moving the king to a safe square or capturing the attacking piece, which is a better move because that way it removes attackers of the black king. So black takes the knight, white takes the bishop and threatens checkmate by playing queen takes rook or by playing queen e8 checkmate. Black, however, can play rook h2 check. Now the white king is in a bit of trouble because if it moves to any of the squares in the back rank, the black pawn promotes with check. And if the white king moves up to a safe square, then black can start checking the white king, queen d5 check. And there is no way white can survive these attacks of the black pieces. So this does not seem to be a good choice for white. Knight g6 check. So what happens if white plays instead rook e8 check? In this case, black can capture the attacker or can block the check. However, if it blocks the check, then white plays knight g6 checkmate. So black is forced to capture the attacker. Bishop takes rook. And now white makes a move that threatens checkmate. If you remember, in the session we found that queen e4 was a move that threatens checkmate. Well, right now, after we calculated a bit, turns out that queen g6 is also a move that threatens checkmate. And also threatens checkmate by capturing the bishop on e8. It is two threats simultaneously. What can black do in this situation? If it queens, if it promotes to queen, then it is checkmate here. Queen takes rook h7 checkmate. So black captures the white queen. In this case, white captures the bishop, check, only move to get out of check, and now white can play bishop c4 check. There is only one option to block the check, queen d5, and now white plays bishop takes queen checkmate. Notice that after playing queen g6, threatening checkmate on two different squares, black does not have the rook move to check the white king. Also notice that if black captures the knight, then white plays queen takes bishop checkmate. Black cannot block the check, and there is no safe square for the king because it is controlled by the bishop. Also notice that after queen g6, if black tries to avoid the checkmate on this square by moving the black king to g8, in that case white captures the bishop on e8 and it is checkmate. There is no way to block the check of the queen. So this is the solution to this position. This is the solution to this puzzle. I hope you found this example instructive. Now, I want to be clear about evaluating a position. I am not giving you a method of evaluation. Woman FIDE Master Anna Cramling explains the evaluation method in her video, How to Evaluate Any Chess Position. You can watch it on YouTube, on her YouTube channel. It's a 20-minute video. What I'm saying is that we must evaluate to find out what's going on in the position, so we can determine possible moves or plan of action for both sides, and that the elements we at our level can or should evaluate are the ones we have discussed so far. Which are these elements? We discussed these elements in our session video: the position of the king, how vulnerable it is, or both kings, current threats or attacks in the position, the material imbalance, if applicable, whether any side has a lead in development, and the presence of a passed pawn or the possibility of creating one. As you keep learning and increase your chess knowledge and understanding, you will include other important elements into your evaluation of a position. Needless to say that practice and experience also add up. Let us now take a few questions from the viewers. What are those other elements? Here are some of the other elements you should know about. Tactical elements, combination motifs, space, control of the center, piece activity, minor piece imbalance, pawn structure, pawn breaks, pawn weaknesses, strong and weak squares. As you become a stronger player, you will start including these other elements in your evaluation. Another question: in what order do you look at the elements when evaluating a position? In order of importance preferably, or the order in which your mind notices them, because they stood out prominently in the position. Note, however, the order of importance is not necessarily how relevant the element actually is in the position. Importance gives us the order in which we look at it. Another question: how accurate should my evaluation be? Imagine an inaccurate compass. Where will it take you? The wrong decision, or the wrong direction, or both? Your evaluation must be accurate. Let us now do a lab test from a real tournament game situation. Let us evaluate this position after white played King G2. It is black to move. This is a recent game between Grandmaster Irina Krush playing against Zoe Dang in the American Cup 2026 held in St. Louis, Missouri. White is winning, but only has 2 minutes to convert the advantage. I came across this game from a tweet, and this was the text in the tweet. White is winning, but only has 2 minutes to convert the advantage. Question 1. Why is white winning? In your own words, pause the video and write down your answer. Question 2. What moves should Grandmaster Krush consider to win? Pause the video, give it a look, and write down your answer. Good luck. Okay. Question 1. Why is white winning? Because white has material advantage. In this case, white is a pawn up. More importantly, because white has a passed pawn on a2. Also because white could target the pawn on f7 quicker, if allowed, than black could target the pawn on f2. And black's pieces are tied to guarding a potential knight jump to the square d6 or d8, where it could target the pawn on f7. Question 2. What moves should Grandmaster Krush consider to win? White should consider safely advancing the passed pawn, if possible. White should also consider moves that attack the target on f7. We will have a look at how the game continued, but before we do that, let me answer a question which is not part of the lab test, but will help us understand the moves black should consider in this position. What elements does black have in its favor? Let's have a look. Note, these elements have not been discussed in this channel. One element that jumps out at you is that black has that bishop on f6, unlike white that has the knight. In other words, there is a minor piece imbalance. However, at the moment, and this is another element, the bishop's mobility and activity is limited by its own pawn on e5. Another element that black has in its favor is the potential pawn break on the square h4. That could be achieved by advancing its own h-pawn to h4. This pawn break would help activate its own bishop some. If white captures on h4, black would recapture with its bishop and target the f2 pawn. If white does not capture on h4, then black would advance its pawn from h4 to h3, attacking the white king. Those are the elements that black has in its favor. How did the game continue? Black played bishop e7. According to the engine, this is a dubious move. Black should have continued playing h5 instead, following the plan of the pawn break. The line would have been white stops the pawn break immediately. Black insists, taking on h4. White captures on g5 to avoid the pawn break. The bishop recaptures, and now white plays queen c4, guarding the h4 square, again to avoid or stop the pawn break. In this line, black would play bishop e7, guarding the key squares d6 and d8. And at this point in this line, white can safely move or advance its passed pawn. White would play a4. Black would do h4. White captures. The bishop cannot recapture because it is guarded by the queen. And now black would play queen h6, attacking the h4 pawn. And at this point, white would play queen g4 check. In this line, white has an advantage of +2. However, in the game, black played bishop e7 instead of h5. How did the game continue? White immediately played e4, stopping or blockading the e5 pawn. Black played queen e2, attacking the unguarded pawn on e4, and he would capture it with check. So white plays queen d5, guarding the pawn and attacking this unguarded pawn. And now black played bishop b4, which is a mistake because it allows the move knight d8, targeting the f7 pawn. That's what was played in the game. According to the engine, black should have played queen to a6, which attacks the knight and the passed pawn at the same time. That way, white could not capture the pawn on e5. Queen s6 indirectly defends the pawn on e5. So, after knight d8, black played queen d2, which is a blunder because it allows white to capture with the queen on f7, check. King gets out of check, and now knight to e6, and checkmate is unavoidable, or you lose significant material if you want to stop it. Let us draw a conclusion from this lab test. Moves for each side come from responding to threats and attacks in the position, as well as from each side's favorable elements in the position. I hope you found this lab test instructive. Let us now move on to the what do you notice in this position from the thumbnail of the video. In this position, it is white to move and win. It is a study from Henry Rank 1903. Did you notice black's king is exposed and vulnerable to attacks by white's pieces? Did you notice black has material advantage? Queen versus rook plus bishop, and 3 pawns versus 2 pawns. Did you notice black has a passed pawn on a4 and the possibility of creating another one on the king side? Did you notice that if the game went to a pawn endgame, the position would be lost for white? Did you notice the white king is safer than black? So much so that black has no single check against the white king. Did you notice white's pieces can attack the black king or the black queen? Did you notice that if white does not take advantage of black's king vulnerability, black could play queen f8, threatening queen f4 check or queen f1 check, and very likely white would lose the game? With those factors in mind, white played the attacking move rook a8, attacking the black queen and threatening capturing it next move. Black has multiple options here, but none can save the queen. Let's have a look. Capturing the attacking piece, queen takes a8. Then white plays bishop f3 check, a skewer on the black king, winning the black queen. Let's try moving the queen to a safe square. Queen e6. Then white plays rook a6 check, another skewer that wins the black queen. If black plays queen d5, then white plays bishop f3, pinning the queen to the king, winning the black queen. If black plays queen c4, then white plays rook c8 check, another skewer that wins the black queen. If black plays queen a2, then white plays rook takes pawn on a4. Now the queen is attacked again. If the queen captures the rook, then white plays bishop e8 check, another skewer that wins the queen. If black moves the queen to a safe square, then white plays rook a8, attacking the queen again. Now the queen has no more safe squares other than h7. In that case, white plays bishop g6, attacking the queen, threatening capturing it next move. If black takes the bishop, white plays rook a6, another skewer that wins the queen and the game. If black does not take the bishop and instead attacks the rook with king b7, in that case white takes the queen, black takes the rook, and then white will promote its passed c pawn to win the game. Unbelievable study illustrating how problematic it can be having an exposed and vulnerable king, unable to avoid or defend against opponents' attacks and tactical resources. Particularly, the pin is a tactical resource and the skewer is another tactical resource. And if you noticed, at the end of the tactical sequence, white has a very big advantage, positional advantage, in its passed pawn on c2. I hope you liked this study. To summarize, now we know what to do in a position whenever we find ourselves not knowing what to do. Evaluate by looking at the significant difference in the position to find out what side has an advantage. Then consider moves that take advantage of the factors that favor you. Moreover, now you know what to do in your own games, even if there is no tactics in the position. I hope you found this lab helpful. Before closing out, I want to share a snapshot of the tournament game between Grandmaster Irina Krush and Women Grandmaster Zoe Tang after Irina made her move King G2. In this photo you can see on the left side Irina is waiting for her opponent's move. With that, I want to thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like, share it with chess friends and family, and subscribe to the channel. If you are in the US, visit my Herbalife distributor website to order your favorite Formula 1 nutritional shake mix or herbal tea for a healthier lifestyle. Good luck on your next games and never stop learning. Take care.